I want to start off by prefacing this video that it's still early days after the update. There are still many more things to be learnt and uncovered. These are just my initial findings regarding blueprint drop rates and how it relates to the new cold snap patch. Before the update dropped, I was gathering information on blueprint rates from specific containers. I wanted to know whether different containers drop blueprints more often, and if so, which type of container is best. I didn't get enough time before the update to find out conclusively, but from what I was able to gather, there was some interesting information. What I did was I went into RAID with one goal, to search only a specific type of container. I would count how many times I searched that container in the RAID, record it, and then go in again, only searching one specific type of container until I found a blueprint. Then I would repeat the process until I found another blueprint in the same type of container. Then I would average the result. The first container I chose to search was suitcases. On average, I had to search 35 suitcases before I found a blueprint. That's a 2.9% drop rate. The next container type were white desks. I had to search 38 white desks on average before I found a blueprint. That's a drop rate of 2.6%. Another container type were grey desks, the ones with cube-shaped drawers. I had to search 91 on average to get a blueprint. That's a drop rate of 1.1%. Similar to grey desks, residential kitchen cabinets, drawers and fridges had significantly lower blueprint drop rates. I had to search 117 kitchen cabinets, drawers and fridges. That's a drop rate of 0.9%. Another container type was chests of drawers and wardrobes. I had to search 39 before I found a blueprint. That's a drop rate of 2.6%. The last container type I was able to gather information on is rusted, breachable, square metal boxes. On average, I had to search 43 before I found a blueprint. That's a drop rate of 2.3%. So, here's the summary of the data I collected before the patch. Suitcases, white desks, metal square breachable boxes, and chests of drawers and wardrobes. These fall between 2 and 3% drop rates. Grey desks with cube-shaped drawers, as well as kitchen cabinets, drawers and fridges had roughly 1% drop rates. You might be thinking, but this data is all pre-patch. Why are you giving us these stats if blueprint drop rates have changed? The answer is, because while it's true that blueprint drop rates have changed, they've only changed in specific circumstances. And I used the information that I collected from before the update to figure out exactly what it was that was changed. The blueprint drop rates on Stella Montis have been significantly boosted. On average, I was finding a blueprint every 28 containers I searched. And this was just from looting any container I came across, not even trying to find the best one. That's a drop rate of 3.6%. What's more, the blueprints that are dropping on Stella Montis are almost always the new blueprints added with the new update. The gas mine, the pulse mine, the seeker grenade, the deadline mine, the trailblazer, and the Aphelion rifle, which isn't new, but now spawns on Stella Montis, not from the matriarch. During the Cold Snap map event, I randomly searched 24 containers on average before I found a blueprint. That's a drop rate of 4.2%. Of the blueprints I found on Cold Snap, none of them were the new ones. On Stella Montis and during Cold Snap, it didn't seem to matter what container type I searched. All containers seemed to have the same tier of blueprint drop rates, as in I found equal amounts of blueprints in kitchen cabinets and drawers as I did in white desks or metal breachable boxes, almost as if on Stella Montis and on Cold Snap, the devs have made each container equally valuable to loot. I also compared the data I gathered from before the patch to maps that aren't Stella Montis and don't have the Cold Snap map event. The blueprint drop rates for Dam Battlegrounds, Buried, Spaceport and Bluegate without the Cold Snap event still seem to remain the same. The blueprint drop rates don't seem to be boosted, and after testing the drop rates from specific containers and comparing it to the old data, there still seems to be at least two distinct tiers of containers. White desks, suitcases, metal square boxes, and chests of drawers and wardrobes still seem to have a 2 to 3% drop rate, while others, like grey desks and kitchen cabinets, seem to be closer to 1%. If I had to guess, it's because some containers are more likely to spawn more items. As in, the containers that sit around the 2 to 3% drop rate might have a higher likelihood of spawning 4 to 5 items when you open them. while other containers might be more likely to spawn 1 or 2 items. So, based on the container type you open, and provided this is true, that some containers spawn more items, you might find 2 or 3 extra items in a container with a higher chance of spawning more. For example, if we assume the low tier of container has on average 2 items per search, and the high tier container has on average 4 to 5 items per search, for the same amount of effort, we are getting the possibility of 2 to 3 extra items, or, in other terms, 100 to 150% more items, and potentially double or more our chances of one of these items being a blueprint. There do seem to be exceptions to this though. Red lockers and security breach lockers always seem to spawn a lot of items, even high tier items, but they seem to be less likely to spawn blueprints. And I should state this again, that this is just a guess, a theory, and is just something I noticed. It is by no means a fact, and this only relates to Dam Battlegrounds, Buried, Spaceport, and Bluegate without the Cold Snap map event. With the Cold Snap map event, and on Stellar Montis, it didn't seem to matter what type of container it was that I searched, and how many items it spawned, on average. The drop rate seemed more equal, but who knows? Once again, this is all early days information after the patch. As time goes on, I'll get more concrete numbers. What I can recommend for now though, look for the new blueprints added to the game on Stellar Montis. Search any container you come across. I was having the best luck in the medical wing on Stellar Montis, but that could just be because there's a lot of high tier loot containers nearby there. If you don't want the new blueprints added, but ones already in the game before the patch, I would play Cold Snap, and once again, loot every container you come across. The last piece of advice I would have is if you're playing the regular maps without Cold Snap, pay attention to how many items you normally get from each container type. Learning which containers have a higher likelihood of spawning more items might just be the key for more efficient blueprint farming.